Hey, good morning, guys. Today is June 5th. It is, I think, the 11th week of our spring garden tour series that we've been doing. We have a couple more weeks of spring left, which is pretty exciting. I'm probably going to switch these tours up for the summer just because a lot of life is going to be happening around here. So I might do monthly tours. I'm still figuring that out. But for the spring ones, I'm excited to go through the last couple weeks of spring. Even though it's getting a little warm out here, it should be cooling down actually a little bit later this week. But anyway, if you're new here, my name is Kiera. Feel free to call me Q. And welcome to my garden. So we're going to start in our normal spot up the hill. And I'm just going to show you what's going on in our garden. There's a lot of new stuff from last week because we started a lot of new stuff. So I'm really excited to show you kind of what's happening now, what's popped up, and we've taken a few things out, so parts of the garden look really different than they did last week. And we've also started to get harvests, which is really exciting. So lots of cool things. Let me start from the top. All right, so right now I am on our patio, which is a place where we love to entertain, have people over, host lunches, dinners, bigger parties, all that good stuff. And I'm going to buzz through this pretty quick just because there's not a ton that's new here yet, but I still want to show you the progress. So first up, behind me, we have a blackberry wall, which the coolest thing about this that's happening this week is that they're starting to touch the ceiling on our patio. So let me back up here so that you can see. They're getting pretty tall, which is really awesome. We have decorations up from a party we had a couple weeks ago. We've just been enjoying the decorations in the meantime. This is what the blackberries look like right now. They're still green. None of them are really changing color yet, but they're everywhere, which is really promising. Especially over here. Do you see that? That is a lot of blackberries. And this whole thing is just loaded up. One other thing about this is we would love to make blackberry jelly, maybe blackberry jam. I'm not in love with the seeds, so it'll probably be jelly. But anyway, we would love to preserve some sort of form of that. And we don't have enough quite yet for that because we do really love eating these fresh. And so one of the things that we're looking into, maybe this year if we have time and energy to do it, but we do want to potentially forage some blackberries so that we can make jelly. And one cool thing is my husband has been kind of like going on hikes and stuff around the area, and Andrew's found places where they have wild blackberries, and the bushes he's noted are like a couple weeks behind ours, which is really awesome to know because we'll be able to kind of track when we can harvest based off of how our blackberries are doing here at home. And we think that's because, you know, these are watered on a regular basis. They're also fertilized on a schedule, so all that good stuff. That is something that we're hoping to do this year. Fingers crossed if we can actually get it done. But if not, we'll do it like next year or something like that. But that is something that, you know, we have blackberries at home, but we'd like to have more. And so we have local places where we could forage too, which is really cool. And it's something we've never done before. Okay, next up, I want to show you. The dog is thirsty right now, which I get it. It's a little warm out here. So the next thing I want to show you is our green stalks. One of them I actually moved, so let me show you that one first. It's the strawberry green stalk. So I was struggling with getting this going. I've been babying it to kind of bring it back to health. So I moved it over here because it gets way more hours of sun than in the spot it had before. It wasn't getting enough. And there's some parts that are still looking pretty bad, but there's a lot of new growth, and then some parts are starting to make a real comeback. So that's exciting there. Hey, buddy. Hi. It's too close. Can't see you. So excited about this, and we're just gonna see what happens. Now our other green stalk is still in the same spot. So in this one, we had cool weather stuff that we were experimenting with. We did taste some of the lettuce. Where was it? Somewhere at the bottom here. We tasted some of this lettuce right here, and it actually tasted pretty good. So most of this stuff is way far gone, and we just haven't replaced it yet. And then we had some leftover flowers from a party that we had. So I put all of the leftover flowers in here. I need to prune these a little bit. Need to also make sure that they're getting a little bit more water, it looks like, now that it's heating up. But this is just kind of sitting here for right now. All right, so that's a look at our patio for this week. Let me grab my water and then we'll head down the hill. This is an area where we have our herb bed right off the house. There's not much going on in the bed itself. It's pretty much the same. Stuff is bolted, we let it. But around here, we planted some potatoes, and potatoes have come up in almost all of the pots at this point, which is really exciting. That one's empty, but we got potatoes here, and then potatoes on those two over there, which is great. And then over here, this is cilantro that we let bolt and go to seed, and it is starting to produce seeds now. And so once these dry out, we will be able to harvest them, and that is coriander seed. So they started off as these cute little flowers here, and then they form pods. One other thing, this potato, which was our first volunteer to pop up, it's flowering right now. And so I think the next stage after this is forming tubers, or that's how you know it's starting to form tubers. Now we have grown potatoes and they didn't always flower. And so I think that's a good indicator that the plant is doing something and it's starting and all that good stuff. But if you don't see flowers on your potatoes or your potato plants, and then they start to do the process where they actually, brown and die back and all that stuff, don't worry about it too much, because we've totally had potatoes that just never flowered, but we still got potatoes at the end of it. And so what you're really looking for is for the plant to go through its whole life cycle. And once it starts to like brown and die back and all of that, that's when you know it's ready to harvest, and you most likely have tubers down there. This is our apricot tree. There's not much to report here. It's not producing fruit this year, but it's living its life. It's doing all right. And then this is our peach tree. It was very sick, and we have been thinning it, and you can just see this thing is still loaded. It's a lot of fruit on here, and so we have to keep thinning and thinning as the season goes on, because this is crazy town. But you can tell, just like you can see up there, how weighed down these branches are with all this fruit. These are nowhere near ready yet, but we did try one the other day and it tastes pretty good. So it was still hard, and they're still small. They're getting bigger every day, but they taste really good. So I'm excited for when these are ripe. Right now, the squirrels are doing little taste tests for us and taking little bites out of multiple fruit as they do. But I think these are going to be really good whenever they're ready. Here is our grape arch looking glorious. So we have two mature grape plants on this side and one little guy on this side. And you can see that it is now sprawling all the way across the ground. We did clean up a little bit in the middle here, so we kind of tidied up some of those branches that were starting to fill in the middle of the arch, just because we really like this part to be open. But these plants now go all the way around, and then right here, this, which is pretty close to the ground now, is one of those plants over there. So they are massive. And then this is what the grapes look like right now. So they're starting to get a good size on them, and they're starting to look like actual grape clusters. Here's a look at the canopy under here. I love it under here. It's so cool. But yeah, there's grapes everywhere in here. And these are the kind of grapes that turn kind of like a reddish purplish. And so when these grapes start to actually ripen, it's going to be really, really beautiful under here, just because all these clusters that you can see here are going to be like red and purple, and it's going to be beautiful. They're going to really stand out. So I'm really excited for this. It's at least 5 degrees cooler underneath here than it is in the sun. So this is pretty awesome. All right, I'm going to buzz through here because there's not much to report. But here's our little grape plant that we brought with us, and it's doing really well too. This will be the first year that we actually get grapes off of this one, so I'm really excited. And it's grown all the way up there, It's grown all the way across the trellis, so it seems really happy. There's some lavender back there that came with the house. We did not plant that. And this is a Meyer lemon tree that we did plant. It was in a little pot that we moved with us. This is our orange tree, and the fruit's starting to be a pretty good size. Let me see if I can find another big one. Oh, here we go. So the cool thing is we actually haven't thinned this tree very much, and it seems to kind of be thinning itself, which is really great. There's parts right here, like we need to get rid of some of those, but there's less fruit on it now than there were flowers, and this is actually what we want. So it looks like it's figuring it out for itself. And then here is our clementine tree, or cutie tree, and these are still really small. So these are tiny little guys. So as you can see, there's some stuff that came with the house that we have modified a little bit or been nursing back to health, you know, depending on what it was. And some things that have been really great for us since we moved into this house, like those grapes. And actually last week marked our 1-year anniversary of living here. And so I did a garden tour where I showed a lot of kind of like what this place looked like 1 year ago when we bought it and when we moved in. And so if you are interested in that, I'll also link that video down below. But it's pretty wild to see how much of this we were able to do in a year, which is really awesome. All right, so off of those trees, I'm going to show you now some of our in-ground beds. Like we have 2 tomato trellises that we did in-ground, and then going into our garden beds. I'm out here much later than I thought I would be, and it's getting pretty hot. So I'm going to see if I can go through the parts of this that are in the sun a little bit faster, just for my sake, because it is getting pretty hot out here, and while still showing you kind of like where things are at. To orient ourselves, that's a tree I was just standing in front of. This is the last of our garden beds, and then in the back here we built a tomato trellis. We have a couple indeterminate or determinate varieties down here. These last 2 are Romas, and then farther down there's the indeterminates. But there's a nice little marigold that's still intact, which is awesome. These I cleaned up the bottoms a couple days ago, maybe even yesterday. Actually, it was yesterday. And so I went around and cleaned up all the bottoms of all the tomatoes and just kind of tucked what I could to the trellises. But it's really great because now we're getting flowers on all of these. And so these are super sweet 100 varieties. And then down here we have Amish Pace tomatoes, which is an indeterminate pace variety. There's guys like this where I think I need to give him a stake to help him out a little bit because he keeps leaning over. This one was itty bitty when I put it in, and I wasn't sure if it was going to make it, but it's holding in strong. And yeah, so these tomatoes are doing really well. You can see where I've started to kind of tuck them in and out of the trellis, so I'll be weaving those in. And then down here, 1 week ago, I planted pumpkin seeds. So these are 2 Howden pumpkins, and I'm gonna let them get a little bit bigger, and then I might move one of them to another spot just because they both can't grow here, but I wanted to make sure we got one here. And the idea is just kind of let them sprawl in the back here wherever they want to go. But that's really exciting. I've never grown large varieties of pumpkins before. Okay, and then to the beds. So I just want to show you, I'm backing up here so I can show you the massive size of this zucchini plant. I'm so happy with this. And there's zucchini. We need to take that guy off today. That one's really big. There's 3 more over here. And I want to say we've taken probably 5 zucchinis off just this plant in the last week. So it is really healthy and beautiful, and super excited about it. I have been cleaning up the bottoms a little bit just to kind of make sure that we're not shading out other things like this pepper plant here. I want to give it a fighting chance. And there's a couple peppers in here that were kind of hidden. And so I like the idea of them having a little bit of a shade canopy, but I didn't want them completely outcast by these leaves. But this guy is glorious, and I love it. This right here was something in previous videos. I said I thought it was a dahlia, but I'm pretty sure I didn't plant this because it's in multiple parts of the garden and it's too close to anything else I did plant. So we're not sure what it is. It kind of looks like a nightshade of some sort. We thought first it was a dahlia, then we thought maybe it's an eggplant, then maybe a tomatillo. I don't know, but we're kind of just curious at this point. So if you do know what this plant is, please let me know. And I don't know. I don't know if I need to take it out or what. We're going to do some research on it. We just haven't yet to figure out exactly what it is. But it's massive and growing very well in all of the places where it is growing. But I didn't put that there. And then there's okra here that I did plant. There's a pepper here. 2 peppers back there. And this is an okra that got pecked at by the birds, and it's making a slow comeback. So that's really good. We have opal basil here. Same thing with this okra. It just got, had one too many altercations with birds. Then we have Thai basil. I grow it just for this. It tastes good. It smells wonderful, but I love how it looks. And here's another okra plant. So here's another one of those plants where we don't know what it is. And this was the one where I figured out, like, I didn't plant this here because there is an eggplant right there. And this does not look like that fully. It looks different. There's 2 peppers right there. And then there's another pepper over here. And so I was like, I just wouldn't put a plant this close. And I looked at my old videos and I didn't. So yeah, no idea what that is, but I think it came with our soil. And then here's another massive zucchini plant that's doing really well. I have trimmed some of the leaves out of there too, but I love that it's hanging over the side of the bed now. Here's a really good shot of it, and you can see like how it just completely covers the side. I actually really love that. And we've gotten, I want to say 2 off this one, but I mean, there's another one we can get today, and there's tons of flowers, and it's doing its thing. This amaranth is glorious and giving me life. I love everything about this. I keep trying to do these justice on videos, and it's not the same. They're beautiful in person. Over here we have 2 types of cucumber. So this is an Armenian cucumber, and this is a I think it's a Telegraph Improved. Yeah, I can see the tag down there. So it's a Telegraph Improved. So they've been getting big, and I've just been weaving them through the cattle panels, trying to keep them on their sides a little bit more so they grow up the trellis instead of choking each other out. But we have flowers on these now, which means pretty soon here we should have cucumbers, which is really exciting. I hope it's not too hot for them, but we'll see. So this is a Moulin Rouge zinnia. It's struggling a little bit, but it's getting there. Here are things that we planted about a week ago that are coming up. So this is a sugar pie pumpkin right here. And over here is a butternut squash. That's a new seed. And so that's coming up. Really excited for that. On this side, it's the same thing. So we have a new butternut squash right there. And then we have 2 sugar pie pumpkin seeds right here, which I'll move one of these off of this trellis to put it on a trellis that's empty. And then this is our biggest Armenian cucumber. It goes here now. Let me show you. Okay, so I told you it's hot. You can see I'm getting sweaty now. But it is now as tall as me, and I am 5'5½", almost 5'6". So this thing is probably, I mean, tomorrow it's gonna be taller than me, but it's also kind of like woven in here a little bit, and so I'm really excited about this guy because I love when these trellises actually start to fill out. It's really cool. And then next to it we have a Persian gherkin cucumber that is also starting to produce flowers down there, and so hopefully we'll get cucumbers pretty soon. This is a junior yellow sunflower that has been mostly eaten up, but I'm still okay with that, and it's still blooming, so I just kind of let it be here. We got a few happy pepper plants down there. These I think are habanadas, which are a sweet version of the habanero, and they're really good. We have a Eaton sunshine marigolds right there. We have some very happy chamomile, which I need to come out here and harvest some of it so that it keeps blooming. We have another one of those plants I didn't plant right here. And over here, we have another amaranth, and then these are noodle beans. So the noodle beans are starting to climb pretty far. So you can see they end about there. So with these noodle beans, I said, might have been in last week's tour or the week before that, but I said something like, they tend to start really slow and then they just take off. And that has totally been true again here, because these are now climbing all the way up to here, past where I can reach sitting down. And they are just exploding with tendrils, which is really awesome. We love noodle beans. We cook them in a lot of stir fries. They're really good in that. We don't really use them for anything else except for stir fries, really. But we really like them. And we eat a lot of things over rice. So yeah, these are really awesome. And what I'm trying to do here is build a noodle bean trellis so that they hang down on both sides. I'm really excited for that. But yeah, the noodle beans are finally taking off. So hopefully pretty soon here, they start to flower and then we'll actually have beans. Here's something else that's new. This is another butternut squash that we just planted. This was a place where we planted an old seed before and it just never came up. So we got a new packet and they came up within a week. So that's really awesome. And then back here on the other side of this trellis, this is an Autumn Beauty sunflower. I put this one in as a seed and it is just doing so much better than any of the ones that I put in as starts because my starts were not very healthy. This is a eaten up dahlia, but that is going to be a dahlia flower pretty soon. And there's a couple on here, so I'm really excited for this. These things have struggled, but they're still trying. And I think right now this is my favorite part of the garden because it's so filled in. So we have peppers here on the end here. We have Blue Lake pole beans on the front of this trellis. On the back, we have a honey nut squash that is doing really well. Oh, and it looks like it's about to start flowering, which is great. And I did see some fruit on here behind some flowers the other day. But anyway, it's going really well. I'm going to keep putting this guy up the trellis. There's this amaranth right behind it. And then in the middle here, the straw flower is filled in. And it looks like some of it might open pretty soon. My zinnia is getting pretty big in the middle there. And then on the other side, there's these cucumbers. So I love how full this is. This is what I want. This is always what I go for when planning out a space. And I love that it came together like this. On this trellis, we have some more chamomile. We have a yellow squash that was not nearly as big as that yesterday. So I got to take that one off. That's huge. But we harvested our first yellow squash yesterday, which was really exciting. And that was probably half that size yesterday. And then over here, what are you? Let's find the tag. This is another honey nut squash. And so you can see the flowers, the female flowers have the fruit behind them. So those will open up soon. We have more Blue Lake pole beans here, a second yellow squash with a second squash that was not nearly this big yesterday. So this needs to come out today, which is great. And then sweet alyssum underneath here. Like, seriously, how pretty is that? And we have another amaranth. Right here is another butternut squash that we had replaced. Oh, I was about to move this noodle bean, but there's a ladybug sleeping in there, so I'm gonna leave it. But you can see these noodle beans are climbing really well too. And then over here, I planted a bunch of bush beans, and you can see that there's a couple of them starting to come up. There's one right there. Let's see, where's that other guy? Oh, there he is. There's another one right there. And so I planted noodle beans. Oh, there's another one. All down here. And then, oh, the pepper plant I moved over here so it could get more water died. But yeah, so we'll have noodle beans there pretty soon. There's a really pretty Thai basil on the end here that I'm excited for it to get big and flower. But everything on this side is doing okay. That's still a blank spot I haven't gotten to yet. And then this is where all of our jalapeno and poblano peppers are. And they're doing really well too. And there's the sides of that yellow squash plant. So this is really awesome. Here's an overview of the cut flower experiment in these 3 middle beds here. These are all cut flowers. And there are a couple things in here that I want to show you. Well, I do have tomatoes on the end here and then tomatoes on the end here. But there are a couple things in here that I want to show you. So first things first. I don't know if I'm going to be able to get this. I don't think the camera is going to do this justice. I can't really see, so I can't tell if it's blurry or not. But this is beautiful. This is like a yellow peach snapdragon, and it is by far my favorite one. There's another yellow one right there. There's a really pretty white one right there, and these are awesome. The cosmos are doing pretty well too. I came out here the other day and just clipped all of the spent flowers off of these, and they definitely didn't disappoint in making new ones. You can see it's time to do that again, but these are looking really lovely now. These are our Roma tomatoes, some of them, and they are flowering on this trellis, which is really great. And then up here we have golden nugget tomatoes. And these tomatoes, the plants themselves look really weird to me, but I don't know if they just do that. But it's covered in actual tomatoes. So there's a ton of fruit on here, and there's also a ton of flowers. So I'm really excited for these. These are really good. So like I said, I don't know if these plants are okay or not, because sometimes tomato plants just look weird. But they're doing all right for right now. Here is one of the few zinnias that's actually gotten to the right size. This is a purple zinnia, and giant purple zinnia, and it is really pretty. I'm happy we got at least one. The other ones behind it are trying to, so this whole row is zinnias, but this one's really good. More cosmos here. So these are getting a little bit eaten and frayed and stuff, but the plants are producing a lot of buds, which is really nice. More snapdragons down here that'll be flowering soon. And then these are, I love these. I think these are my favorite of the cosmos that we have coming up. They're so pretty. All of them came from I think probably a mix pack. They're all called Candy Stripe, and they're all a little different, but I would totally grow these Candy Stripe cosmos again. And then here's the front bed where, you know, a lot of things didn't come up and they're struggling, but the snapdragons are doing really well. So there's a pink one here. There's a yellow one. Oh, here's a really pretty, like, delicate peach one. Those are beautiful. There's another darker peach one. So these were just a snapdragon mix from seed to that, because I'd never grown them before and I didn't know what they were going to do, but these did not disappoint. And then over here was the land where everything died or got eaten. So I had basil here. It all got eaten. These were dahlias, and then I had marigolds, sunshine orange marigolds, which all of those have been eaten in our garden. And then this is an experiment I'm doing. So these were 2 that looked like they might make it, and I had these little like strawberry cages or strawberry baskets. So I just kind of put these on here just to see if it would help at all to give these plants a fighting chance. And this one hasn't done much yet, but this one has leaves that are legitimately bigger and healthier, so caging them with something, even while they're small, does seem to be helping. So in this back corner here, we have 7 blueberry plants, and there's not much to show there. We're not actually growing blueberries on them this year, but just so you know, they're back there and they're happy. We have a Honeycrisp apple tree right there, and then these are our other 3 4x16 garden beds. And these were all planted, I want to say, almost 2 weeks behind the other ones, so that's why everything in here is so much smaller. And we had a lot of stuff in here that we just took out, so if you look at the difference between this and last week's tour, they look pretty empty. And that's because we had garlic in here that we took out in the last week, which I have a video coming for that. And then we also just took out the pea plants yesterday. So anyway, let's take a look and see what's going on in here. A zucchini plant that is just starting to flower. I actually really like it that they're staggered and it's a little bit behind the other ones. We have some pretty happy pepper plants here that are flowering also. Some chamomile. This is a tomatillo that started flowering last week, and then its companion right here, this little guy, started flowering this week. And so hopefully these will start cross-pollinating each other now, is the plan. We'll see. And then over here, a week ago, I planted a bunch of trio bush beans, and you can see a bunch of them came up, which is really exciting. And there's even more in here. These flags that you see everywhere, these have been reminders for me on where I planted things, so I remembered to come in and put extra water in between our drip irrigation being on, and it worked really well. So these are some of our other tomatoes. These are all Amish paste, and they are an indeterminate variety. There's no fruit on these yet, but they are flowering, so we're not too far along here, or far behind here. In front of this trellis, we have another Armenian cucumber that is much smaller than the ones on the other side. This was a transplant that I put over here, and we get a lot more shade on this side of the garden, so I want to see how our cucumbers do into the warmer season on this side. Here, we planted some sugar pie pumpkins, which both seeds came up, so I will either thin this, or I like to try to move stuff first, so I'll probably see if there's an empty trellis and then move one of these guys as they get a little bit bigger. I put in more Blue Lake pole beans a week ago to fill in this trellis, and oh, that's interesting. So this is some sort of squash that I thought was not coming up anymore, and so that's why I put these pole beans here. I gotta figure out what to do with that. We'll see. And these are more, this is basil that has been flowering, so I've been plucking the tops off so that it's not, it bushes out instead of flowering. And then this is more pole beans. Over on this side, same thing. I planted one more noodle bean in that spot just to fill in the space. And then I think this is, yeah, these are all Blue Lake pole beans also that I just planted. Over here, we have a sugar pie pumpkin for decorating in the fall and then for eating as pumpkin pie. And then this one is a honey nut squash. There's nothing here yet. This looks different. So you can see these big tomatoes that I have here now. We had a big patch of snap peas here that we just took out. We just cut them at the ground level. You can see where all the stems were. So we, instead of pulling the roots out of a lot of plants, unless it's disease, we'll just kind of cut at the base to keep those roots in the ground, to not disturb the soil, and also because those roots become nutrients in the soil. But anyway, these tomatoes now have all that sun, which is great. And then I've started to kind of bring them towards the trellis. Here's what they look like on the other side. This one is a Hungarian heart, and then this one is a yellow brandywine. I got both of these from the farmer's market, so they're massive compared to my other tomatoes. And when I originally trellised this up, I thought it just had 2 liters, but it has a third. And I want to experiment with that. And so I'm going to let all three of these leaders grow, and I'm going to push them and weave them to this trellis behind them. Our eggplants started to really take off in these last couple hot days we've had. So we have 2 eggplants there and some pretty happy peppers around them. This is a honey nut. We really like honey nut, as you can tell. And when these guys start to, touch their neighbors, I just weave them through, back through. Sometimes I can do it right away. Sometimes they need actually to grow a little bit longer. It looks like I'm going to wait on this guy and let him grow a little bit longer so I can weave it better. Here is a yellow watermelon that is looking really happy. Oh, I'm in the shade. It's so nice to be in the shade. And then these are some more peppers. And this is a yellow squash that is just starting to come up here, which I like. Again, I like that this is going to be behind those other ones because you can already see how much we get in a week with even just getting one a day or 2 a day. It's a lot. And then that is a Thai basil plant. In this bed, we also put some bush beans here, and I'm actually surprised these haven't come up because we planted them with all the other ones. I don't see any, but we'll give them a little bit more time. Here is another yellow watermelon. This is another basil. Over here is a watermelon that I transplanted, and it's doing really well, but something was also eating it. So it's still alive, but it has a few less leaves than when I planted it here. So it looks like, for the most part, it's pulling through, though. And hopefully we'll get more watermelon off of that. More pepper plants. 2 more eggplants here, right here, and right here. These are some more tomato plants, and what I'm doing with these is I'm slowly actually moving their strings farther or closer to the trellis here, because the plan here is I do want to weave these in. We had a huge thing of sweet peas here, and that's why they're so far away from the trellis, but I decided I want to try and grow them to the trellis if I can. And on the other side here, we have a zucchini. So this guy flowered as soon as we moved all of those peas. It was kind of funny, but it's doing really well, and it looks a lot happier now. It also looks a lot bigger in the last 2 days as a whole. Here's another pepper plant. I think this is a sweet bonnet, which is a sweet version of a Scotch bonnet. I've never tried a Scotch bonnet because I don't really eat spicy food, but I've never tried this sweet bonnet either. This one looks more like a habanada for me. This habanadas we've grown the last couple years, and we love them, and so I'm excited to actually get those this year. And then all the peppers, more peppers. These are a mix of Italians and Edgevarsky peppers. The Edgevarsky is new to us, so like this is an Italian pepper that I saved the seeds from the farmer's market. Same deal here. Then over here we have junior yellow sunflowers. Okay, so I came back to the other side of this trellis just so that I could sit and chat with you for a second. But here are those sunflowers I was just talking about. There's one right here and one right here. This is a great example of the difference in what happens with healthy seedlings. And so these both, I put seeds directly into the ground, and they're thicker, the stalk is thicker, they have a ton of huge leaves compared to the ones that I put my very sick, not doing very well seedlings in the ground, and they were spindly, they're really wiry, the leaves are really small, they're not growing very wide or anything like that. Totally different plant. And that is the difference in a healthy plant and, something that is sick. Now, that being said, a lot of times I think it's still worth doing, even if you can't put a perfect plant in the ground. I think it's still worth putting a plant in the ground because I still get flowers, I still get color, and I'm still learning a lot, which is the main reason why I do it. But this is why I also follow it up with putting seeds directly in the ground, because I want something to start me off and I want to practice getting better at growing seedlings, but I also want to be able to get more later that are healthier plants that end up better than the ones that I grew. So this is a great example of the difference that a healthy plant can make. So there's those sunflowers, these two sunflowers again, and then the rest of this row is just peppers and a very happy marigold in the end. All right, so this is the last area I want to show you. We have a lime tree over there that we planted from a pot. We have a gala apple tree here that we just bought this year. And then we put in this second tomato trellis. So these are all Roma tomatoes. They're a determinate variety. And then in the back here, I have like some basils. I had some extra snapdragons that I put in back here. But all of these plants are doing really well too. And they're starting to flower, which is great. You can see they're bushy and happy. There's a marigold on the end over there. This, at the base of this Honeycrisp apple, which came with the house that we moved, but we moved it here, is a borage that is flowering now. And it doesn't do it justice in the full sun like this, but it's like almost a neon purple, neon blue, and it's really pretty. So I haven't seen any bees or anything on it yet, but apparently this is really good for pollinators. And then here, at the end of this trellis, oh, it is coming up. So I put another Howden pumpkin here, and it looks like something is torn it a little bit, but it is coming up, so that's really exciting. And then these were extra snapdragons that I just put somewhere to put them there. But yeah, I'm hoping that that lives so that it can sprawl in the wood chips back here. Whew, okay, we did it. Thank you for joining me on this very hot garden tour. We made it through. The whole garden almost is in the sun right now, so I'm in one of the very few shady spots we have left, and I'm thankful every day that we have these two huge trees in our backyard too that give us just an amazing amount of shade, and it just makes the garden in the summertime, because it gets really hot here. We're in zone 9B in California, so our summers are usually around 100 degrees. But anyway, these trees make it so that the summer is lovely and bearable instead of, you know, just a death trap in the entire backyard. But anyway, thank you for joining me on this garden tour today. I hope that you enjoyed it. I hope that you were as excited as I am to see some of this new stuff that's coming up. And we have a couple more weeks of official spring, and then, like I said in the beginning, we're probably going to have to do things a little bit differently when we transition into official summer, just because a lot of life is going to be happening around here. Please bear with me as I figure that out. I'm still figuring it out, and it might change honestly as we go along. So I appreciate you joining me today. I appreciate you joining me for, you know, all the days that you have and all the days that you do in the future. Whatever's going on in your garden, even if your garden is a pot on a patio, I would love to hear about it. So thank you again for joining me, and I will see you next time.